Hello, friends. Well, the World Cup is well and truly over by now. It's like a dream. It sort of went by so quickly. Congratulations to South Africa and hard luck, New Zealand. That's too bad. Anyway, let's see. What's left to talk about? Well, I'm not really here to talk about the World Cup. I'm more interested in what's going on with the selection process for the Japan head coach. Now, I first saw the advertisement in English online for this position well before the World Cup, and it was quite straightforward. You had to submit your CV or your resume, to use the American term, to the the selection agency in London. And there was talk about transparency and how it was all going to be, conducted in that proper fashion. Now, I don't know if it was particularly necessary to get a presumably quite expensive London headhunters involved, and how much expertise they have in rugby or knowledge of rugby and its background. That's not really my concern, although I feel they might have been able to do it themselves, the JRFU. Anyway, let's leave that aside. As far as I understand, the current situation is, well, I know about two candidates, I believe. First is Franz Ludeker, who was the head coach of Kubota last season when they won the League One championship for the first time under him. So that was good. So he's got a good something good going for him already. And then there's Scott McLeod, who's been an assistant in the New Zealand team, coaching team for the World Cup. And he, of course, has played for Toshiba until quite recently, I think maybe 2016-17. So he's also got Japan experience. So those are the two I know about who are presumably due to get a second interview in November, which is what the JRFU said it's doing. And then we've got the wild card, or should we say the joker, Eddie Jones. Now, I'll be quite frank, I can't understand why anybody would want to have Eddie Jones as their coach anymore after what's been going on recently with England and then Australia. I really, I don't come at this from a neutral position at all. At any rate, if you look at this thing, first of all, you have to say, well, why would Japan go back to Eddie Jones? Admittedly, their greatest ever success, the Brighton Miracle, so-called, when they beat South Africa in 2015, the Rugby World Cup, was under Eddie Jones. That's fair enough. So you could say he's got that great feather in his cap, but it's quite a while ago. Let's see, 2015 is what? It must be 8 years ago, is it? And quite a lot's happened since then. Of course, there are people who say, well, it was really Michael Leach's decision at the last minute or the final minute of the game to go for the try, and Jones would have been quite happy with kick to equal South Africa, have a draw. So anyway, and then I think if you were to ask some of the players who actually were under Jones, the Japanese players, they would probably not, I suspect, I may be wrong, but I don't think that many of them would be positive. I mean, for example, take Hirose who was captain until he made the mistake of smiling after a loss in the press conference, and that didn't please Eddie. So he was gone, and then I don't think he ever played for Japan again. So there's one. He's now, I forget which sport it is, but he's now become the head of another sport in Japan, administrative head. And then, of course, well, there's Tanaka Fumiaki, the little scrum half from Kyoto. And I think he fairly openly disliked Jones. I'm not sure about Michael Leach, but I understand that he may have said he wouldn't want Eddie back. I'm not sure about that. That would need checking. I've no idea what people like Horie would say. But anyway, I think, it would be interesting to ask them because they're the people who've experienced the Jones methods firsthand, admittedly 8 years ago. But I don't think he's changed that much. Can the leopard change his spots and all that? And then if you look at Jones's most recent track record, well, England, his results went downhill pretty fast after the last World Cup, when admittedly they got to the final, which of course was good. But after that, it was fairly steady downhill. And at one point, he was jetting off to Japan to help Suntory or something, which enormously angered the Rugby Football Union, and with good reason, because they were paying him a huge amount of money to focus on England. So that didn't go down well, I don't think. And of course, as the results got worse and worse, he was given the push, not for the first time. And then, of course, we've got what happened with Australia. I don't know why. I mean, okay, perhaps Dave Rennie's results were not quite what the Australian Rugby Union wanted, but sometimes you have to be patient with a coach and recognise that they are doing their best and that the results will come in time. So anyway, the ARU didn't have patience, and they got rid of Rennie, I think in January of this year. And lo and behold, Eddie Jones is available. So there we are. He gets it. And well, to cut a long story short, his selections for the World Cup are the squad. I mean, leaving out Cooper, Hooper, and who's the other one? Foley. That's quite incredible, really, that you'd leave such experienced men behind and just go with a very young and inexperienced team. And it's all very well saying, well, what I'm doing is preparing for the next World Cup. But I don't think that was acceptable to the Australian public. And we all know that Australia bowed out before the quarterfinals, which was the first time that's ever happened to them. So a bit of a shock, I would think. And certainly not what the Australian Rugby Union was looking for. So anyway, Jones has now bailed out of the Australian job, having said that he was there for 2027 and the home World Cup in Australia. He bails out. Now, why has he done that? He maybe he saw some writing on the wall or something. I don't know. Maybe he didn't feel very comfortable in Australia after what's happened, which I think I could understand. Maybe he also thinks that he's in with a shout for Japan. Now that's where I think alarm bells start ringing for me, because he's not done himself any favors recently by his behavior, and I can't see why the JRFU would prefer him over people with a fresh approach either Ludica or McLeod. And honestly, it's it's something which it's a mystery to me that they might even consider him. Unless, of course, you remember that he was at Suntory, and the present chairman of the JRFU is Tsuchida-san, who is a Suntory player. And I think they're pretty good mates, as Eddie would say. And perhaps, Eddie thinks that he's in with a chance on that basis, which is, I don't know, it's probably a pretty bad way to choose a head coach. That's my opinion. And he does talk about wanting to be in Japan for personal reasons, but that's not a reason to make him head coach of the Japan national team, is it? Then he talks about wanting to coach younger players. Well, perhaps he should be looking at a university or even high school coaching role, but not the national team, where people are already adults and they're probably best not treated as children. Okay, well, that's about as much as I want to say at this moment. I guess we'll know soon enough, hopefully. I don't know why this has all been delayed until November, but then I don't really know why the process was started before the World Cup. So perhaps they should have started after the World Cup and got it all done in this month. But that's up to them. I'm nobody and nothing. Just somebody who's been watching the Japanese rugby scene for a while and would like the Japan rugby team to fulfill its undeniable potential to play exciting rugby, which will make heads turn worldwide. All right, I'll stop it there. Thanks very much.